So recently I got a question from Brandon, who's a young guy in his 20s. He came to one of my seminars a few months back, and he's been a long-time watcher of the YouTube channel. He's a purple belt, and he sends me a message, and he says that, he's watching me at this seminar, and he's seen me in my videos over the years, and he said, bro, you seem like you're a really self-confident person. You seem like you have a lot of confidence. And he's like, I'm a young guy in my 20s. I don't really have a lot of confidence, and I would like to develop it. So he sends me the question basically asking, Chewy, were you confident like always? Were you always confident? Or was it something you had to develop? And if you had to develop it, give me some secrets. Give me some ideas to develop my own, right? So I'm paraphrasing there a little bit, Brandon, but again, that was the question you asked. So thanks for the question, bro. So let's get a couple things out of the way. First off, I was not confident early on, was not. I don't think many of us really are, right? And I'm gonna give you some strategies on developing self-confidence, but it's not the fake it before you make it bullshit. It's gonna be like the real unshakable self-confidence that you can basically take over to any aspect of your life. Now, let's get a couple things out of the way. When I say confidence, I do not mean that you will be absent of nervousness, anxiety, self-doubt, insecurities, vulnerabilities, whatever, right? To be human is to have all of these things. Talk to any of the best competitors. They're all nervous before their matches. They all have these self-doubts that creep up in there. Everybody has it. You can talk to the richest people in the world, the people that have all this fame, fortune, whatever, and they still have all kinds of issues mentally, right? So to be human is to deal with all of this stuff. The big deal is that by developing confidence, you'll be able to go through it because you have confidence in yourself to do it anyway, even if you're nervous, even if you're scared, whatever it might be. Now, the word confidence, what does that even mean? Okay, again, this is important because if we're going to talk about developing it, we need to know what we're trying to develop. So the word confidence, if you break it down, it comes from Latin, and it breaks into two chunks. Con, meaning with, fidens comes from federe. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm not a Latin buff, but the word means trust. So essentially you're saying with trust in yourself, right? That's what you're saying. When you say self-confidence, you're talking about you have trust with yourself. And trust is an important word, right? Because that's what we're trying to develop. And so how do you develop this trust with yourself? Well, think about how you would develop trust with anyone else, right? If you have a good friend or a family member or a loved one, right? How do you develop trust with them? You go through stuff, right? You've been through some different challenging situations over the years, and it makes your bond stronger because you have this data to back up the relationship. I have good friends of mine where I know at the drop of the hat, they would be there for me no matter what. I haven't maybe talked to them sometimes in a year or something, and it doesn't matter. In a moment's notice, I could call them and they'd be there for me, and I've done the same for them, they've done the same for me, because we've done this before. We have data to back it up. We have these stories we can back it up with. In your gym, some of the guys, because you've been training for a while, you're a purple belt, you probably got guys on the mats that are like your battle bros, right? The guys you're getting after it with, and you've probably been doing this stuff for years, and those people that you go really hard with over the years, you probably have a level of confidence and trust with those people that you don't with people you haven't trained with previously, right? Or haven't trained with as much. So with that said, how do you develop it in yourself? How do you develop this trust in yourself? Well, if you want the real stuff, not the fake stuff, you got to go through stuff. You got to put yourself into challenging situations, and then you got to come out on the other end of it. For me, going back to it, I was not a confident guy growing up for a myriad of reasons, and I initially developed my confidence in wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and MMA. And what happened was that I would be in all these situations where for one reason or another, I was second guessing myself. I was anxious. I was nervous. On paper, I was supposed to get beat by this guy, but then I would come out on the other end and I would be successful. And sometimes, even if I wasn't successful, maybe I gave him hell and I did a really good job. And, regardless, even if I fell flat on my face, after it was over, I was like, I'm still here. I can compete again. I can go again. And so that started to build up a level of confidence in myself that maybe there's more in me than I think there is, right? That's an important thing. And that even if I'm second guessing myself and there's all this turmoil in my brain, that if I just trust in myself and just do it, most of the time good things happen. And it's been that way over and over and over again. And then also too, it then gave me this confidence, and there's sort of another side of confidence is that it spills over into other areas. Think about it going back to this analogy of other people. If you have confidence with someone else, someone you have a lot of trust with, you will trust their recommendations that have nothing to do with their expertise, right? So if you have a friend that maybe you really have a lot of trust with, they're a good close friend, and they give you some stock advice or some restaurant advice, regardless of whether or not they know what they're talking about, that advice will hold more weight because this person has a lot of trust with you. You have a lot of trust with them. Likewise, when you start to develop this trust in like one area of your life, for me, it was like combat sports, that started to spill over into everything else. I remember when I was getting into this business stuff back in 2010, There's nobody out there telling you how to run this stuff. It was all new. I was scared. I was nervous. I was whatever. But I went back to, you know what? I was scared, nervous, and everything else about everything that I've done with MMA or Jiu-Jitsu, whatever. But again, if I work really hard and I prepare and I do my best and I just trust in myself, most of the time good things happen. And that's been the case. Now, I've failed a hell of a lot doing it. Oh man, there's so many failures I could go over on this channel and tell you about. But again, even through every failure, it was like, dust myself off, do it again. I'm fine. We're good. This is part of the process, right? And so I share this with you for a couple reasons. Here's the ideas to chew on, to take away. Number one, you need to find out the things that you want to do, that challenge you, that make you nervous, and make a list. I did this. I made a list in my 20s. I was like, these are the things that I want to do, but I'm nervous to do. And these things for you, they could range. You could be nervous to talk to a girl at work. It could be traveling on your own. It could be a myriad of things. It could be MMA fights, whatever. Write the list. Just write down like 3 things. And then you work really hard. Because again, you can't just like think about it and have warm, fuzzy feelings and think that this stuff's going to float into place. That's not how it works. You got to go do the damn thing. So you work really hard to make these things happen. And again, here's the important thing. It doesn't matter if you're successful or if you fail. Because if you work really hard, you're going to be more successful than failure, right? You'll do better. But the thing is you're going to fail. You should expect it to happen. But the way that you should perceive it, so that you don't get discouraged, is just look at it as you made an attempt, you did the damn thing. You actually took action, which most people don't even do, right? Think about how many people have all the ideas. Look online, bro. You've got everybody's a weight loss expert, everybody's a mental health expert, everybody's a financial expert, right? But then for some reason, people are like miserable, they're overweight, and they're broke. So again, everybody has all the ideas, they just don't take any action on anything. So again, by just simply doing something, you're doing more than most people. And what happens is if you perceive it this way, where you're making an attempt, and even if it fails, you don't care. You just keep going, and you have the chance to make it another attempt. And again, this is all coming from my perception. You may not view it this way. This is how I view it. Then what happens is you get this sort of empowerment from just making the attempts and doing the thing, right? I've talked to many of you guys who've had this experience. You go compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament, you were super nervous, and you're done with the competition. And even though you lost, you're like, I did it. Right? And that's kind of what happens a lot of times when you find these things that make you nervous and you go and do them. So again, I made the list in my 20s. That was one of the things that I did. And then again, I developed a clear level of confidence by getting really good at something with jiu-jitsu and MMA and boxing too, but MMA and jiu-jitsu and wrestling. And then that spilled over into other areas and gave me the ability to be confident because no matter what, I knew I was good at something, and then also too, I knew that I had this data to back up the thought that no matter what I do, if I put myself into something and I work really hard at it, and I trust in myself, most of the time good things happen. Just remember that confidence doesn't mean that you don't have the negative side of the feelings and emotions that we all experience, because that's just to be human. So anyway, a little bit all over the place, but hopefully that's helpful to you, Brandon, and good luck with you, brother. Make your list, go knock it out, and go get that confidence.